McGillivray. Here. Powell is absent. Notice, Charles.
Present.
Long.
Here.
Motts.
Notice without absence? No,
Markham.
here.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Don't encourage me.
All right. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We have no communications. We only do public comment once at the end of this meeting because we're not taking any action in the regular part of the meeting, and therefore all comments will be at the end. All right. We will jump right in. We have no communications, so we will jump right into item 5, the budget hearings, and item 5A is information technology. So, welcome. For the record, introduce yourself and tell us what you want to tell us, and then when you're done, I'm sure we'll have lots of questions. So, and I want to encourage everybody to speak into your microphones. The tech people have been yelling at me for 2 days that they can't hear everybody, so. What? Yeah, so just pull the mic up close. Hello, Commissioner.
So good afternoon,
Gershenson.
Commissioners. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Good afternoon.
So I'm Mike Tim. I'm the Director of IT. I want to also introduce our leadership team that is here on the phone, on the screen, Jeanette McKenna, who's the manager of our internal services team, Tammy Shepard, the manager of our application services team, and in the room, we have Jim Manning, who's the manager of our Kpis team, E.J. Wyden, the chief technology officer for the county for IT, and T.J. Fields, who's our chief information security officer. We also have a vacant position that's manager of technical systems and networking. Obviously not here with us, but that is a key position that several of us have been basically backfilling. I also want to acknowledge our fiscal team support, Monica Tinsley, Ed Mullen, who are both on the call, and Sean Phelps from the fiscal team. As a just brief introduction, IT is made up of 4 divisions, nearly 170 FTEs, full-time staff, plus our contract labor staff. Those 4 divisions are internal services, technical systems and networking, application services, and Kpis. From a budget perspective, just very high level, there are actually 5 proprietary funds in your budget book. And by order in the budget book, they are Kpis, Fire Records Management, the Radio Fund, IT, and the Telephone Fund.
Mr. Tim, are you,
Yes.
are you using that, or is it just behind you?
I will be in just a minute.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. And from a budget perspective as well, we did meet the 4% reduction target last year, so we had no additional reduction targets this year. We will go through just, some highlights of major projects and those kinds of things coming up here. When we started preparing for this, the board staff presented some questions, and just at a very high level, the 3 key ones, were around what were our objectives, the IT department objectives from a budget perspective. And the first is really innovative, reliable, and secure technology. The second is partnership with customer departments. And the third is to manage our cost effectively. So what we will describe today in the PowerPoint, really talks to those 3 items. And a key part of that is what we know as our IT master planning process. And that process includes the involvement of leadership and made up of leaders representing all county departments to help us plan and prioritize. So as other departments come through and talk about technology needs, obviously we are collecting those needs from them, but they are also involved in that prioritization process of helping us manage fixed resources. Because like every department, we don't have unlimited resources either. So that's the process we use. All right, I wanted to start briefly. Several of you have seen, especially within the county executive departments, County Executive Coulter introduced at the State of the County address this idea of a strategic plan, the idea of key process measurements for the departments, to contribute and measure our contribution towards the goals and the objectives of the county executive departments. So a couple of the KPIs that we just wanted to briefly introduce you to. The first is around our hours utilized for maintenance, development, and what we call department projects. So this is really critical. This is the allocation of our resources, primarily people, but also some of the dollars around hardware and software, many of which come through as projects that we bring forward to the board for additional allocation. And this is key because this is really the demonstration of the partnership we have with the departments, their help in prioritizing, as well as our ability to, not just manage fixed cost, like keeping the lights on, but also our ability to provide enhancement budgets, new projects and new development for those departments, which is where they see value in technology. Another key KPI for us is the number of service center requests that are closed and completed on time. So this is standard requests that people have. I need a new laptop, I need a new monitor, I need a new cell phone. These are standard requests. Excuse me. And those requests, we do try to measure what percentage of them that we complete within a 60-day time period. We also have a third KPI, which managing a budget this large and a project portfolio as large as we have, in this most recent master planning process we're going through, we have nearly 170 projects that the departments have requested. We won't be able to do all of them without some additional funding, which the departments will, in some cases, work on getting additional funding for some of the projects if they have a good enough payback or business rationale. But in that process of prioritizing and then working through projects, project management and keeping projects on time and on budget is an absolutely critical part of how we manage that. Two more KPIs are cybersecurity. We talk about that periodically in here as I bring forward funding requests. It's obviously front and center on most everyone's mind. It gets a lot of press, so that is something that we spend quite a bit of time managing to make sure that we keep the county data safe. And that includes a number of different aspects, and we have a number of scores and KPIs to help us measure that. And then finally, number 5 out of our key performance, our headline key performance indicators, is around customers rating IT service as excellent. So this is also something that we're interested in improving. And that, again, primarily is folks within the county, the departments that we serve. So this graph is just a sample graph of a couple of the KPIs. We are working actively with the performance team in the county executive office, publishing our KPIs. Some of them will be published externally. Some of them, that relate to security, we will keep those internally published. Happy to share those with any of you as we develop them and as we begin that tracking process. We've also identified 39 additional KPIs that are in a category called service level KPIs. So services are administrative services inside of IT, application services, our Kpis team, our infrastructure team, internal services like in our project management office, security and training. Again, some of those are internal to IT, but most of those are services that we measure our performance as we deliver to other county departments. So we will continue working on these, as well as tuning and tweaking these. If maybe one of them is not the best measure of our performance or the best. We have some systems, for example, we identified one as system uptime. And while system uptime of, for example, our 911 system is important, we don't really have plans to improve the uptime of that, because that system has so much redundancy that we have not experienced downtime. There might be individual downtime aspects in an area that we have workarounds for. So our objective with that system is that that people that call 911 are always able to get through. And that's been the case for the last 3 years we've been measuring it. So that's an example of one where we will keep track of that, but it might not be one that we track on this dashboard because there are no specific actions that we're taking, which is part of the intent of this. So some key budget changes. The workforce reductions, as I mentioned, we completed last year, fiscal year '22. Some new investments that we're talking about from a budget perspective. Existing funding was put in the budget last year and will continue for investments in our infrastructure programs, so our new voice over IP phone system, our new Wi-Fi system. So those projects are nearly complete. They will be completed by the fiscal year '23. Security, identity and access management, server replacement, the servers that manage many of the applications we have, and yes, the wireless upgrade expansion I talked about already. So all of these things related to either system performance, technical debt, and/or security that were in the budget last year, projects that we've been working on, we will finish those up this year. And then we also, you'll see in one of the budget notes, and in fact, Kyle actually mentioned this during the presentation to the board in the end of July, there is a one-time $2 million funding allocated from the general fund, which is kind of earmarked for software and purchases for the departments for projects that go through that master planning process that we talked about. So as that master plan is developed, that $2 million
Like
is
what?
earmarked for those.
Excuse me, like what? Software to be used for, example?
Well, an example of that might be a department that, well, an example that we have historically used maybe ARP dollars for would be upgrades to a conference room. Now, that's a little bit different than this, but software that's procured, we procure software for, say, tracking restaurant grading would be an example. So we have a project called Acela. That's a software package for the health department, and we're in a project to implement that today. If the health department came up with a new project, and one that comes to mind is a learning management system. So the health department has to keep track of the training that all of their staff goes through. That project will require a software package, and that software package would be part of this $2 million funding.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so that's an example that I know is in the master plan request. So those projects, I mean, just to be clear with the finance committee in particular, those projects will all come to the board with the sponsoring department and IT. Will come hand in hand to allocate those $2 million for those projects, as they get vetted, as the business case is built, as we move forward with, this is when it's going to be delivered. And the very last slide are some other major initiatives for 2023. Some things that are currently in the works. Microsoft is upgrading operating systems as they need to do. Windows 11 is coming out, so our workstations at the county are all on Windows 10. So that upgrade will, go across nearly 5,000 workstations that we have at the county. It's a Herculean effort to do that upgrade. The IT infrastructure is our servers and storage in our data center. And then also continuing to work through the radio project, which, has been a big project. It's been to the board several times. That project is going through its, what we call the backhaul testing and verification as we speak. The antennas are all ready. We've received much of the equipment. We've gone through some training, and that backhaul work is going through test right now. So that will continue through the next year. Some new anticipated IT projects are out of this group of 170 in the master planning process. Many of those will get approved as we go through that evaluation and prioritization process over the course of the next few months. And in the October timeframe, those projects will initiate. And then also mentioned in the budget book was the IT rate study. As a proprietary fund, the IT services are delivered to departments, and departments, quote unquote, pay for those services based on various rates. Those rates have not been evaluated in over a decade, and they have been adjusted just through some simple math, but the evaluation process will be done with an external consultant that is part of an RFP that the fiscal team is going through. Major contracts that are up for bid, so these will go through the RFP process, but they're major parts of IT infrastructure, endpoint security. Many of you probably heard of McAfee or McAfee, as some people call it. That resides on all of our laptops, it resides on all of our servers, and it provides some amount of our security protection. That project of evaluating new tools will be completed as an RFP in this next budget year. Our cloud services, we have a significant footprint that we manage servers and storage out in the cloud, and the management of that, contract, we are also working on an RFP that is going out for bid. And as I mentioned yesterday when I was here with another contract, the co-location services for the data center, that was one of the Windstream contracts that we talked about yesterday in the Finance Committee. So those are major contracts that will be going out for bid in this next fiscal year. So that concludes kind of my introductory and summary remarks, and I'm happy to either myself or any of our leadership team take any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much. I will open it up to the commissioners, starting with Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner Moss.
I raced to be first. Very
did.
competitive. No, just kidding. So on page, do you have the big budget pages?
I have many of them,
Okay,
yes.
602. 602.
Yes, the IT fund?
Yes, the 63130. What is non-governmental development? And it was, actual was 4.5 million?
Yes.
And that, what, was it because of COVID, something in there? Because then our budget's going down to 2.3 million.
So all of those line items, those four that are there, two of them are listed development, two of them are listed operating.
Operating.
So those are the ones actually that I bring into finance on a quarterly basis and request your approval to transfer funds from the general fund departments into IT. And they are for the work that we have done on their projects.
In-house, though?
Yes.
In-house, okay.
Yes.
I just didn't know, like, the non-governmental. And
So-
then,
so
why
non-
was it more in 21 when it was actual? Was it COVID? That's what,
Not
5?
necessarily. It varies a little bit between whether, so non-governmental are other proprietary funds.
Okay.
Governmental are the ones that are GFGP.
Okay.
And that's about half of the county budget, right? In total is general fund, and half of it is proprietary. So we provide IT services for WRC, for example.
Okay.
And every time we do something for WRC, it hits that non-governmental line
Okay.
item.
All right.
So it just varies by, where the projects are coming from, the departments, and the source of the funds.
Right, it was revenue, so that was good. So I
Right,
just wondered
right.
what was included in that. And then there's one more question on page 604, the professional service, kind of down by the end.
Yes.
So in actual, we did 6.4 million, now we're adopting 4.3. And then, so what were included in those professional services? What is included?
So the biggest chunk of that is, those are people
Okay.
that we contract with. We do an RFP every 3 years. That was just done last year, maybe 2 years ago. I mean, COVID has changed my timing a little.
I know,
So in that RFP, we ask for, an example would be, we need project managers.
Okay.
And project managers are a great example of somebody who is here for a project, and then when that project is over, that work is no longer needed, so they're not full-time county employees. That's what professional services is for IT. We do spend a lot in contract labor.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, I am going to go to Commissioner Charles next because she always uses the system like we're all supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
And I
You
don't.
should have-
I forget to
I'll
look.
yield to
And
you
she
next
has
time.
been diligently pushing that
has.
button to speak, and so I'm going to let her go next.
You want us
and-
all to do that? We can all do that.
Well, we're all supposed to do that. I
Yeah.
just keep forgetting to look at it, so
Me and my coloring in the lines.
that's okay.
I appreciate your questions, Commissioner Long, because I figured you were going there, and I too come from a background where professional services always give me a little angst because it's so vague. And quite frankly, if I was looking for, I think you used the term pass-through yesterday, whether it be on the right or the wrong, it's so easy to hide, and it just makes me so unsettled. So if we look at 667, it does look like several lines of professional services. And it'd be one thing if
What
it's like
page are you on?
667 and 668.
Okay, you went to the back.
And nothing ever changed at the school district level, so I'm sure it won't change here, but just to itemize it out a little bit better, to be able to really see what it is. Because again, it is very obtuse, or whatever the word is. So that would be, excuse me, I think Commissioner Long asked about increases in revenue, and I think you already spoke to that, so I won't rehash it. And then about the back of the big book with IT professional services. So I guess you could say the questions that I came up with were in terms of, you said there's 4 divisions, internal, Kpis, and internal something, Kpis,
Fire records.
fire?
Well, so, yeah, the divisions are internal services, application services, Kpis, and technical systems and networking.
Oh,
Those are organizational divisions, but, well, to Commissioner Long's point, there are 5 funds that we manage as part of IT.
Okay.
And in your budget book, page 557 is Kpis,
Okay.
569 is fire records, 577 is radio, 602 is IT, which is the biggest one, and 610 is telephone. So those are all budgets that we all manage, and the organizational structure potentially bills any or uses any of those. Now, the Kpis team is primarily responsible for the Kpis budget and the radio budget, just as an example. But
That's terrific. And,
so yes, your question on professional services.
well, just again, it's allowed by law to put it as professional services. I just say as a layperson, it'd be nice to dig a little deeper into those items. My final inquiry with you is, as if that'll ever be final. I'll always have questions for you, but I'll stop at this one, which is, I think there's like a hierarchy of requests that come to you when departments need stuff. And I'm just gonna go on a limb, because closed mouths don't get fed. I feel like we should be really high up on that list, because
Way to go, Jan.
I just feel like, some of the things we've been asking for are such easy implementations, and we're really the only forward-facing body at the county, quite honestly. Like, no other electeds have to sit and listen to public comment for 4 hours, but us. And so I really think it's important that people can use our website to easily access things. I promised that to people in terms of a wish list as I was running, and I would just really whatever you need, we're here for you to make us more of a priority.
Great.
All around the county. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Good point. Commissioner Moss, you are next.
Yes. Well, thank you. Everybody else is getting into the details, so I don't have to. It's wonderful. I just have a couple of really, I want to say almost incredibly general questions. You say you're, excuse me, putting things in the cloud, right? Which cloud? I mean, cloud is just another word for somebody else's server. So how do we make sure that that server has security? How do we make sure that all these documents are being properly kept, curated, divined, and also, once again, protected?
So I would not call that a general question, but actually, I'm happy to answer that because I think we do quite a bit, and this starts all the way back in our project acquisition process. So in our RFP process, part of our RFP when we look at vendors is their security. And that includes whether they run in their cloud or someone else's cloud, or they're going to run on-prem here at Oakland County. So that's part of the RFP process. It's part of our contract evaluation process and contract management process.
So we got more than one cloud?
As to your point, there are hundreds. We have stuff that we manage in AWS, Amazon Web Services. We also serve, as you know, most of you know, county email is Microsoft Exchange, Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft Office. Those are all in the Microsoft cloud, which is a separate cloud. We have servers, our web servers for our website are running on SharePoint, which is a Microsoft product in the Microsoft. Some of that is on-prem, some of it's in the Microsoft cloud. So we have stuff, Workday, which we just implemented, is served by Workday in, off the top of my head, I don't know, Tammy might know, or EJ, which cloud that is in, but Workday provides that as a service. We don't even manage that cloud. So we're very aware and involved in the clouds that we do manage. And then the last piece I'll say around security, one of the metrics that I showed was our overall cyber security effectiveness score. And that tool actually lets us monitor all of our key vendors. And we can see their score as well. And we do evaluate that. And we work with risk management and with purchasing and with those vendors to ensure that their security scores are where we need them to be to manage and protect Oakland County data.
Excellent, thank you. And I have a question. I know that pretty much every budget and every department is coming up and saying that in 2023 we're going to have overall compensation increase of 5%. I said here, and I'm looking right now, Information Technology Fund, budget highlights, looking at, is it now in 2024, see a general overall compensation increase of 3%. And then in 25, is this going up? You're getting I don't see that in any other department about a planned increase in compensation beyond the 5% that we're looking at this year. It looks like there are someone's built in. Is this? Maybe I missed it in all the other ones, but you are contemplating giving a 5% this year, a 3% next year, was it 2, whatever, the year after?
I believe those numbers are standardized across, at least for sure, across the county executive departments. I don't know for sure across the entire county. And obviously union contracts and things like that also factor into. IT is following the recommendation, and that part of the budget is determined by fiscal services, and obviously eventually gets voted on by this board, whether or not that gets approved. But yes, my understanding is it's a 5% across the board increase, both in comp as well as fringe benefit.
Well, the one thing I do notice is that every single department who comes in here says that you guys are taking all their money, and that they're, aside from personnel, their largest uncontrollable expense is IT. So we look forward to the rate. Actually, I might not be, but it will be good to at least have this body take a look at whatever your rate study comes up with.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Commissioner McGilvery.
Couple questions. Do you anticipate any contract extensions this year? And if so, which ones would they be?
So we do have a list of contracts. I can get you a specific list, next week of which contracts that we might be looking at extensions. We do manage, I believe, as I mentioned in the review that I did in December, we have over 200 contracts that we manage in IT, not counting the 911 contract, which is $160 million by itself, not counting that contract. The contract value we manage is nearly $200 million. Some of those contracts are very strategic in nature, like the radio contract with Motorola. That project has a 15-year life built into it. When that contract comes up for renewal, because it is a 5-year contract at the moment, when the support contract comes up for renewal, that would be an extension request. Now, that's not next year, because that project is still under its 5-year life. But that would be an example of one that we would not want to go through the process of redoing a contract like that. Other key contracts are Microsoft. We will be using Microsoft products for a long time. There's no real good alternative. Where Microsoft gets competitive is vendors that do the reselling. So if we can find somebody that does reselling at a better price, we would bid that out. But that's not always the case. One contract that I believe will be coming up for renewal that is major infrastructure, and you've heard several departments talk about, is the document imaging, document scanning, document management. That went through an RFP 5 years ago. That contract is with Laserfiche as the product. And that was a strategic decision at that time. And we will bring forth a recommendation to renew that contract because of the millions of dollars it would cost for the millions of documents that we now have in that platform to put them into a different platform. So that would be an example of one that will be coming. But I can get you a list because we do manage all of those contracts. They're typically the ones that would be our candidates, our core infrastructure that are just so expensive to replace that there's not really a good payback, there's not a good business case. It doesn't make good fiscal sense or procurement or management sense to replace some of those tools. But we'll bring that back and I'll get you that list.
Okay. One other question. I noticed that you have a $1.2 million increase in revenues. Can you explain that?
Which page are you on?
Just generally, it's 602, categorical book.
Yeah.
The right page, Gary.
Well, I'm just going by some of the notes we got here. Right?
Yes. So in general, there are a couple major contributors to revenue for IT, and one of those is delivery of projects. But the other one, as I mentioned, is the $2 million that we allocated out of the general fund that is outlooked as revenue for IT, but it will also involve $2 million in software expense for IT. So that's that $2 million earmark. That would be an example of something that shows up as a revenue increase. We also need to increase revenue, so, and this gets back to the rate study, to account for compensation increase. When our compensation dollars cost more, or a professional services dollar costs more, and we deliver those projects to the departments, we charge them an hourly rate. We track all of our time and an hourly rate, so that increases our revenue in those 4 line items that I was sharing with Commissioner Long.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cavell?
Hey there, sorry for coming in late. Nice blue shirt.
Good to see you.
You too. you may have already said this, but can you talk through a little bit, like a general question, Kpis, and how you work with that, how it works? I know the county executive had a program, perhaps still does, of sponsoring Kpis memberships for the sheriff and local law enforcement. What is it like to do Kpis? Because I also saw, and I couldn't find it, but one of your line items got zeroed out from 240 grand. So I don't know if that's just a, yeah.
So most of the Kpis dollars are in the Kpis budget, which is page 557.
Okay.
So they have a separate revenue stream and expense stream that is managed by IT. Jim Manning is the manager of that team that reports into me, into IT. Kpis is sort of two things. Kpis is the name of an IT team. It's 40 to 50 people inside of IT that report into Jim.
Okay.
Kpis is also a suite of software products that Oakland County owns, Oakland County built, and Oakland County provides support. And Kpis stands for Courts, Law Enforcement Management Information Systems. So that's where it came from, is primarily law enforcement services. Fire records management was an add-on, and that's why it has a separate account,
Okay.
which is your 569. So Kpis is basically law enforcement systems. So when law enforcement have to, investigate a crash, there's a crash report. So there's an application that provides that. If you're issued a citation, for speeding or whatever, there's an application that manages that. So dispatch for police departments, there's an application that manages that. So that's part of the Kpis suite, if you will, of products. Kpis is also one that over the years, Oakland County, because of the integration between the applications and the value of shared data, Kpis is absolutely operated by 40-some police and fire agencies in Oakland County. But then there are also 10 other counties outside of Oakland County that run Kpis, and our team supports them. Our network team connects them to our network. Our Kpis team provides the application support, and the same way we do for the sheriff or the Ferndale Police Department or any other police or fire. If they call us with an issue, we're on it. We provide that level of 24/7, 365 support for them.
Okay.
So that's what Kpis is. And yes, it's still a very big part of our budget, still very much supported
Okay.
in this budget and by the county executive.
Is it something that, and I may be misremembering, but I don't recall like Hazel Park having Kpis. Is every police department in our community using Kpis?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody in Oakland County does.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And then you have a lot of vending and suppliers and all that. How do you feel about the new purchasing person that Scott's team is going to have with the DEI focus? Is that going to help, or will that be impactful to you, or it's just one person?
So, we because of the volume of contracts and the volume of the dollar magnitude, we've always worked very closely with purchasing. So, we're happy to continue doing that. Any new initiatives related to, diversity, equity, inclusion, obviously, within the county executive, for sure, we're very supportive of, and we'll do everything we can to support that.
Okay. And just one broader point, it dawned on me when Gary was asking questions about contract extensions is, there's only 3 or 4 companies that do most of the things you want, right? There aren't, there's Microsoft or, like you said, Amazon for some things, or cloud. But, there aren't 50 people that could be applying or bidding. So when we get mad at you for extending contracts, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? It's not your fault that there's
I've never really felt you were mad at me, but
you should have heard what we
but
said about you before you showed up.
I take your point, and there are some, and those will be the ones that I will bring forth as a recommendation that, it costs too much, or we don't have an option.
Yeah.
But there are absolutely, as I said, I believe in December in that presentation, 80 to 90% of our contracts do go through an RFP process every 5 years, just as they're supposed to through that
Yeah.
policy. The bulk of our contracts do.
Okay. And I missed this, so forgive me because I was hearing you all talk about it, but when will the rate study be done?
That RFP is still, so it's a fiscal services RFP that is being done for multiple types of rates, and I know the IT rates are part of that. I'll see if I can get a date on that. I don't have a date on that yet.
Okay. And
But we're
my-
definitely planning on FY '23.
Okay. And my last question was, I was looking through, again, like the county purchasing policies and stuff, and apparently members of the Board of Commissioners or their designees can be a part of like any evaluation panel, if I read it right. Does that happen? Would you like that idea? Does that just kind of get in the way?
I know we actually did have a board member that was part of the radio evaluation because of the scope, the magnitude, the size. So I know that's happened in the past. Many of our IT evaluations are frankly very technical.
Sure.
I mean, our requirements are primarily technical. Obviously, cost, value is a consideration. But we could certainly talk if there's interest
Okay.
in any particular ones.
If only there was like a commissioner that like taught computer stuff to people.
She's
That's
over
right,
there
that's
shaking
right.
her head.
Yeah.
He's,
Okay, cool. It's just something I was reading recently, so, I know that's like half your job, so, okay. It did?
Yeah,
Okay.
but like you said, it's been a while, but there used to be some commissioners on stuff.
Yeah, I've been on it before.
Yeah, RFP.
Okay. Thanks.
okay, Commissioner Long.
All right, quick, because this expenditure, I'm on page 604. I hate these, and all of us do, this charge card fee. It was 1.2 million. And then, why is it going down? Okay, so then you're predicting in 2023, only not only, because it's a lot of money, 828,000.
So those are, we provide the support, the application support for business functions within the county. If you go to the clerk's office and you want to buy a service from the clerk, a birth certificate, you can charge that, right? We provide that application in IT. So there are changes that are going on now. You may recall I actually brought in the contract with Elevon a few months ago. Elevon is actually our processor. So your credit card gets read by an IT application, and then we send that information, that transaction information, to Elevon, who actually processes it, works with MasterCard, Visa, et cetera.
The charge, and this is what we pay to Elevon, the certain percentage.
Elevon or Forte, who processes electronic
All right.
checks, yes.
But why do they think it's going to go down so much? You know that?
We're expecting changes in how we do that business with Elevon.
Okay. I know we pay a big fee too to that, so I get, okay.
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just had one question really about the rate study, keep coming back, because looking at all the departments, every budget comes in here and tells us, they work with you and you charge them and all that. I'm a little bit concerned that rate study is gonna blow up everybody's budgets. So do you have any sense of, you said we haven't done this in 10 years, that's a little unnerving.
So we haven't done the study. We have made adjustments.
Oh, okay.
And the adjustments are, we estimate based on inflation, and some other factors, we should bump the rate up 3%. So we forecast that. The departments put that in their budget. So that's just that historical piece. I expect what will happen is, what's happening right now is that we are getting money that you see as transfers in. So like that $2 million that was identified in the general fund, general purpose, that $2 million, instead of coming from the general fund, will come from the departments, which are funded by the general fund for the most part, right? So it will, what it will really do is just allow a truer picture of the real cost that's hitting the departments rather than quote-unquote subsidized out of the general fund. It's really just moving money from one bucket to another, but it'll show a truer cost of what IT really does cost the facilities department or economic development or whoever.
Okay, well,
But
it sounds like it's not as dire as never looking at it in 10 years, but.
Correct.
And that you have been making these adjustments, but we can expect to see a lot of consternation from the departments, I think, as these numbers are going to change for them. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure like all change, there will be some conversations.
Well, we need to roll it out in a way that, it's not impacting them in a negative way if it's really just an administrative moving money from A to B kind of thing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I know if I
having
were
said
running a
that,
department, I would be concerned. I expect it's going to go up. Everything's going up.
Right. Right.
If I were running a department and all of a sudden IT was going to hit me with a whole bunch more of charges, I'd be squawking, so.
Agreed.
Wouldn't you?
Agreed.
Okay, so, yeah, that's an open thing, I think. Okay,
Agreed.
if nobody has any other questions, or you guys don't have anything you want to impart that you haven't already, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for all the good information, really appreciate it. The preparation is, there's a lot to it, we know. So, yeah, thank you.
For all of you
I
as well.
kind of guessed that.
Yeah, I know. I always wait until the first one.
Yeah, no, I kind of guessed it, but
My bedtime reading.
it's all right. We're only
fall asleep
2
when I put
minutes
this-
behind.
Yeah.
I got to run to the,
Take a 5 minutes.
Thank you, Tammy. Thanks,
yeah,
Jeanette.
we're going to do 5 minutes in between the two
Here's you do
groups.
with a cocktail.
Okay? So next up will be Okay. Hello to the Economic Development Department. We are happy to have you. We'd like you to just introduce yourselves and then make your presentation, and then we'll have questions for you.
Good afternoon. I'm Ingrid Tai. I'm the Director of Economic Development. I have my team here. Some people here are in person and a couple are online, so hopefully our IT folks in the back will be able to bring them in. But let me just give you a quick overview of economic development, wrong group, and then how we're going to proceed today. So just as a refresher, economic development is comprised of 4 areas of operation, 4 divisions. So we have veteran services under us, and then we also have workforce development with Jennifer Llewellyn. We have planning under Brett Rassigan, and then the 4th area is business development with Louis Starks. The way our budget is comprised, Jennifer Llewellyn's area, workforce development, they are federally and state funded, and she reports to a workforce development board. So therefore, that's the reason she's not part of this presentation today. Those numbers are not on these books. The other person that we have today that will introduce herself is Cheryl Bush with the airport. She is now under the Economic Development Department with a direct line reporting to Sean Carlson. So we have an extra member of the band for today's presentation.
I was informing her as to what the folks in the audience thought her job at midnight was last night, so. Remember those comments?
Yeah, that's why I asked.
We'll talk about them offline, but yeah, there was folks in the crowd who thought we were doing things at the airport that we are not doing.
Absolutely not doing.
Right, right.
So real quickly, if you want to just introduce yourselves here.
Oh, yes.
I'm Garth Wood, and I'm the Division Manager for Oakland County Veteran Services.
Hi, Gareth.
And I'm Cheryl Bush. I am the Manager of Aviation.
And like I said, just the way this is set up, but on go-to meetings, we have Louis Starks with business development. We have Brett Rassigan, who's also watching from planning, and then Jennifer Llewellyn. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So with that, we'll go ahead and begin. As you can see here, as all the other departments are also briefing you, we have undergone the KPI process with our department, and I'm going to go over those KPIs that, again, specifically relate to the budgets that we're talking about today in those 3 divisions. So the 5 that we have here, and then I'll let Cheryl, she'll chime in when we get to her portion at the end, she'll chime in on her KPIs because they are a separate group with that. So we are looking and measuring our cumulative miles of primary trails that we have in Oakland County, and we are looking at that goal of aspirational, long-term, in the big picture of getting to 400. Right now, we have approximately 140 miles in the county, and that's one of the main priorities for Brett Rassigan and his group. The second area for business development, we have 2 that are listed here. These are things that are new to our team in terms of measurement. So we are really focused on defense and aerospace and growing that revenue. How do we help our manufacturers and other companies diversify into this space? If you are working in automotive and you're making a widget, it's very likely that you can make a similar widget for an aircraft of some sort. So how do they get a piece of that pie of the federal contracting? There's a lot of potential for that in our county. And then that other area here for that KPI is the number of advanced manufacturing companies in Oakland County. How do we help our manufacturers transition into Industry 4.0, which is the implementation and the adoption of high technology to help manufacturers work smarter and to adopt technology like artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. The other KPI we have, number 4, that's with Garth and his group, number of benefits and applications that are completed on behalf of veterans and dependents. Again, we want to make sure that we're connecting every single veteran in our county and his or her spouse or dependent to those resources and benefits that they are eligible for. And the last item that hits really across the board for all of our divisions, and all of them have impact on in various different measures, is the median household income of various regions around the county. When we look at the University of Michigan Economic Outlook report that we receive, many of you come to that annual luncheon, and they they being the economists have broken up our county into several regions. And so that's why you get this, what they call the central and these different groups. But we've looked at those that are falling under that average household income and very focused on working on initiatives that help bring them in parity with the other groups.
What's outside Birmingham and Bloomfield? I mean, I know about inside.
Yeah.
Well, he's outsider.
I mean, like out in the yard?
So Pontiac and some of the surrounding areas.
The area out, instead of, okay.
Yeah. So I don't have that map in front of me
Excluded.
today, but it's a square, and it focuses on, so you've got Waterford, Pontiac, some of those areas that are in that specific square on this map that we're using.
Not Beeham in the township.
No, they're doing great. We continue to support them, but yes, we're also very super focused on those areas around too. Yep. So this just gives you an idea of the indicators here and the graphs that come along with our KPIs. As I told you, we've got this aspirational long-term goal, 400. Just an example of how we measure this is our short-term goals. And this is a work in progress. We just got the software several months ago to use for the KPIs. So we're continuing to hone these tools. But some of the things you'll see moving forward is the addition of some of our short-term goals for getting from when it comes to trails, it takes several years to get a few miles. So, 4 to 12 miles will be up here for our next goals, but we'll work through those. As you can see here, we've got the bar graphs to help indicate the average household income for those different regions I mentioned. The ones in advanced manufacturing and aerospace and defense, again, we hadn't measured it in those ways before, so in terms of revenue, so we don't have those bar graphs and data yet because we're just in the beginning few months of actually collecting that data. And then this one in here is for Garth's area specifically, and that's how many benefits have been delivered to our veterans. So you can see here over 2,100. When you look through the high-level KPIs, then we drill into what they call service-level KPIs. These are the 3 areas that we are talking about today in terms of budget. So these are our focuses. So our business development team under Lewis, they are working with our existing companies in the county. How do we help them grow and expand and thrive? So we do that through retention visits. We talk to them about the pain points and the areas that barriers and areas that they're encountering where they need some help. We connect them to resources that we have and our community partners that we work with. We are also very focused on key sectors such as the automotive and mobility, the aerospace and defense, advanced manufacturing, and digital technology. Those are all areas and all sectors in which we have many indirect jobs come out of. So when you have these 4 sectors doing really well, then we see communities and supply chains thrive around them. And then you also see retail, restaurant, and professional services also do well. Under the planning department, these are our focuses here. You see the brownfield redevelopment, our downtown revitalization, trails and non-motorized planning, architectural design assistance, planning, zoning, and land use, and no-haz household hazardous waste collection. And then last for Garth, veterans, client services, and then transportation. And again, these are all areas where you start to drill down in, and those charts that you just saw on the previous slide, we are in the process of developing those charts, collecting that data. So we are finishing most of them, but we'll continue to work on that. Okay, for our key budget changes, right now, so last year, I was joking with our team, we were overachievers. We hit our 4% in the first year, but we are at that aspirational goal of 4%. We achieved that through our reorganization, specifically in business development. And so therefore, based on the guidance from the budget director, Kyle Jen, we did not need to make any further reductions. So we have no changes this year. We do have a few new investments to our budget, a couple of minor things. We have noticed that there is definitely a need for some additional funding to market our services. We have a lot of programs and resources, but half the battle is getting the word out to our constituents about what we have.
I don't even think we know everything.
Yeah.
I
it's a lot.
struggle with it. So yeah, I completely agree with this.
It's a lot.
Sorry to
So
interrupt you.
an example could be, and it's also targeting, very targeted messaging. So an example is we try to attract new businesses to the county. So there are publications that are specific to site selectors who work around the nation, who are working with manufacturers and industrial sites and companies who are expanding or relocating. So industrial sites and companies who are expanding or relocating. So, it's placing ads in those types of magazines specific about what Oakland County has to offer and how to get in touch with us. It's things like putting in marketing materials for our Michigan Works offices and letting job seekers know that they can come in there. So again, it's ad placements, media buys, graphic design, and things of that nature, Facebook ads, to just make sure we're getting the word out to different audiences for specific programs. The other thing that we added was $50,000 for event sponsorship. We've had quite a few requests come through various groups for events to make sure we're promoting Oakland County and our mission. So we added that. And then the last item we have is $250,000 for event planning. One of the things that has come out of this past year is a lot of our staff have been tied up, so to speak, with doing a lot of the logistics and event planning aspects of some of our events. For instance, the Defense and Aerospace event that we did this year, inaugural event, was great. We did that over at the Bloomfield location at the Doubletree. Had about 200 small businesses come, talked about federal contracting, but that took a lot of our staff time, booking a hotel, picking meals, doing the flyers, event registration, all that stuff that it really took away from our staff time to actually be doing their day-to-day jobs. So we have really identified with a lot of the events that we're doing and a lot of the initiatives, bringing in these companies, we do need some third-party support to help kick those off, and honestly, they can probably do that pretty well for us. Other than that, there's no other major funding shifts. The budget is similar to last year, again, with those priorities in mind. So I will just jump here to the next thing with the initiatives. I mentioned mobility, aerospace and defense, and advanced manufacturing are ongoing and key priorities for us. And then no anticipated IT projects or major contracts for bid right now. So before I move on to Garth and his piece of the budget, are there any questions or comments for our group?
Commissioner Cavell.
Well, so a couple things about the marketing and events. You said there's no contracts up for events. Is the $250,000 you'd be putting towards events then hiring internal staff? Because I thought that would be contracting with someone. And since it's $250,000, don't you have to come before us and do a bid and all that? Or have you already done that?
No, so we haven't. So maybe it's just, I guess, I didn't think of it in those terms. We just had them, but whether it's new, I was looking at more in terms of contracting for consulting. Like, for instance, we have Kirk Stoyler, who helps us out with our mobility initiative. We've got that on contract. So I guess we could retweak that to,
Okay.
You're correct.
And then the marketing, Hillary just came in here yesterday and told us all about the Department of Public Communications and its $3.6 million budget, and how they do all the communications for the county and how they represent the county externally.
Mm-hmm.
So is this money that is like an internal service thing that you give to them to do it? Or is it something you're hoping to do yourselves?
This would be for our, maybe smaller is not the right word, but like our internal day-to-day things. So Hillary and the Department of Public Communications is broader scale, higher level, big initiatives, those things like that. But again, her team is not going to be the one who is making the graphic for the the Oakland County businesses in the site selection magazine, or for those day-to-day operations, putting those Facebook ads. It would just be handling those kinds of things for us.
Oh, because yesterday. That's what they said. They said literally they make flyers for county commission and others. So this isn't like right.
It also is the media buy. So if you go back and you look at, just to put it into scope. So.
Yeah.
And I can say this also based on my experience when I worked for downtown Birmingham. $150,000. So, for instance, like we are doing your veteran campaign for transportation for some of your services with the veteran funding. That ad placement, those ad placements on the radio, everything's probably $60,000, $80,000. So, in just one campaign that's running for a few months to get some radio ads for transportation, some of this. So, $150,000. it goes very quickly.
Understood, but that, I mean, veterans was part of her PowerPoint when she was talking about the Department of Public Communications, like,
Okay.
we help lead these initiatives, we do. I don't, that's a y'all thing to figure out, I
Yeah.
guess, but that just is a weird question. And like, I'm happy to give you.
Speak out of turn,
Yeah.
but that is consistent. They are the overall structure. We have a dotted line to them.
Yeah.
We handle the graphics. Sometimes there's one-on-one with businesses to businesses, but we coordinate with the front office. So they aren't inconsistent statements, although they may seem to be in presentations. but
Okay.
that's not.
So then do other departments have their own marketing budget that the dotted line goes for? Or are you unique in some way?
We
No, I think the same goes for external operations like health.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
Thanks.
a marketing group, too.
Right, good point. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody,
One quick
Commissioner
question.
McGilvery.
Regarding the trails, you're hoping to add trails?
Yes,
How many miles of trails do we have in Oakland County right now?
141.
140?
Those are the primary trails.
Okay. Soon to be adding some, because we're looking toward using ARP money to have quite a few more trails in Oakland County.
Yeah, the hope is to working with Pontiac, looking at things like the Pike Street Trail that would connect the Clinton River Trail on the east and west side, Pollyant Trail, looking at some of those, how we can connect those dots. There's some also gaps in the Iron Bell and some others that we'd like to look at.
That's who it falls under. Okay, Commissioner, was that your only question?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Charles.
I did. Pardon me. This over.
Don't mind us for eating through this. We all
Hey, I get it.
You know, yeah,
It's a long day, I get it.
yeah.
I wanted to check with you about those trails. That struck me as different than what I was expecting from economic development. However, infrastructure is a part of the committee at least. So how does that jive with parks? Oakland County, just as a whole.
As a Parks Commissioner.
Oh, so Oakland County, outside of our parks, has trails that are not associated with municipalities.
So, no, we don't own any trails.
Okay.
These are all trails, and that's what makes it tricky or it takes longer. So, for instance, Clinton River Trail, a lot of these others, they are owned by their respective communities or by other nonprofit organizations. Airline Trail, that's a good example that goes through many member communities. So our role is we help facilitate the development, whether it's community planning, providing technical assistance, convening the right groups together to do community advocacy. So that's where we come in. We don't own anything. We don't fund anything normally. So whereas parks, they actually own and operate their parks.
Okay, and then I'll wait till the end of the report.
Did that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was totally lost.
So to get back on schedule, we need to finish about 2:30. So, and we still have not yet heard from Garth. So let's hear from Garth.
Whatever you
and
need, Garth.
then- Or Cheryl, right? And so let's hear from you guys, and we will have follow-up questions at the end if we have some time. Okay?
My budget is really not that exciting. We are pretty much, county executive recommended follow last year's budget, so no major changes there. We do have some initiatives that we're using grant funding that we got from the state of Michigan through the County Veteran Service Fund grant. We've already been approved for fiscal year '23 for $196,000 for that grant, and we'll be utilizing that for our ongoing initiatives, which we utilized it for those programs this year, and they were highly successful, so we're gonna continue to have our resource fairs monthly. We were just in Southfield this morning at Southfield High School. We'll be in Holly next Thursday at the Veterans Area Resource Center for another resource fair. We've also used them for small business entrepreneur workshops that we partner with Business Forward. We're going to plan to program 6 of those next year, so one every other month. We also are utilizing that to continue our free transportation partnership with SMART, where we pay them to provide free transportation from anywhere in Oakland County to our offices in Pontiac and Troy. So luckily, again, we've been able to get that funding, and we're going to continue those successful programs going forward. Anticipated IT projects, we're going to use the MBA grant funding to purchase some items to make our outreach activities even more efficient. We're going to purchase scanners so that we can scan in discharges and things like that, signature pads, so that when we complete forms, we can have them sign those electronically. So, and major contracts up for bid, we don't have any. When we do the smart transportation, they're the sole provider for the area, so we don't have to go through contracting.
Okay, anybody have any questions for the veterans part of this? I'm just wondering about your resource fairs. Are you getting good turnout?
Yeah, we had 133 at the event in Novi this morning from 9 to 12. And what we do is we provide them with, we kind of use the grant to provide them with an incentive. We give them a $50 Meyer gift card if they can provide us with a copy of their discharge. We also get them buy food boxes from Forgotten Harvest, so we buy both a fresh vegetable and a protein box, so they can get both of those and a $50 Meyer gift card. And then there's all kinds of resources there. We had Oakland County Parks out there to give out, veterans are entitled to a free park pass, so they were giving people park passes, veterans park passes right there at the event, and a ton of resources. We've been in Novi, we've gone throughout the county. There's a couple areas we want to hit. Rochester Hills, I think, is probably one of the ones we're looking forward to next year.
Well, I'm glad you're getting good turnout, because that's one area that I think it's hard to communicate sometimes with the veterans community. We really want to make sure they know the resources are there and can access them, you know, so.
And, other partners that show up are the VA, the state, so all the different kinds of healthcare, housing, employment, and there were even free haircuts today. So there are a lot of different resources to help people.
That's awesome.
Free gun locks for any veterans that are there, so.
Good. Do you hand out many gun locks at these?
The VA Suicide Prevention hands those out, so they do hand out quite a few, and
That's
as you
good.
probably know, that's one of the areas in suicide prevention that they found. If you can get somebody to think about it for even a period of time that it takes them to unlock a gun lock, that it can make a huge difference in saving lives.
That's really, you do really great work. I know that. Okay, next up.
Cheryl.
You guys have fun jobs, I can tell.
Yeah. We're pretty lucky that way. So we have two headline key performance indicators we've identified. One is our fiscal responsibility. We're really proud of our proprietary fund and that we are able to support through our users at the airport the expenses that it takes to run the airport. So one of our headline performance goals is to keep an eye on those revenues to expense ratios. And so we're looking to be obviously a goal over the number one. Due to our reporting, we've had just 1 month where it fell short, but I think that was a timing issue from, you can see our third bar, the orange bar. There was with the Workday implementation and some of the changes that we're going through in fiscal services reporting, we had a little timing exchange. So I think that we're right on track. We're right on track year to date to stay above the positive line. The second KPI we identified is airport activity. We aligned that with livable neighborhoods and making sure that our activity levels are growing to support the financial commitments that we have at the airport, but to keep an eye on those numbers as we also counter sometimes noise complaints and issues that people claim that we have maybe more activity at the airport than what we do, and that we're growing at exponential rates that sometimes develop into noise complaints. So this is a good target for us to be able to always know exactly where we stand. And we are on track to continue to increase our activity levels beyond the prior year. And of course, everyone knows we were impacted by the pandemic. So I think we're going to have probably 130,000 or more operations in 2022. We also were asked to identify our service level KPIs, and we've identified what services that we provide as an airport to the community. First and foremost is always to maintain safety and security of our airport operations. We also maintain our airfield, grounds, and facilities. A large portion of our time is developing our leasehold agreements and land lease agreements with the tenants on the airports. And then we are a customer service provider to our airport users, collecting payments for landing fees, customs fees, fuel flowage fees, and whatnot. And then lastly, we are at all times ensuring compliancy with our federal, state, and local laws, rules, regulations, and all of the oversight that you can imagine that we're obligated to adhere to. So as a part of those service level KPIs, we've identified 3, of which we don't have graphs yet to show. We're still in development, as Ingrid had mentioned, but I would hope that that will be available to us in the coming months. But we'll be tracking number of aircraft accidents and incidents in the safety realm. We will be looking at our hangar capacity by airport, how many are occupied versus those that are still available, what are occupied by aircraft or aviation services as opposed to non-aviation. And then lastly, we'll be looking at the number of work order repairs and time to complete the repair to make sure that we're maintaining our facilities and servicing our airport tenants. So our budget changes are relatively minor in nature. Again, we're pretty much repeating the baseline that we had from the prior year. We do have some slight increases in revenue rates with our increasing expenses. We've also took a survey. We went back and evaluated, and between last year's budget and next year's budget, we have some small increases that we'll be implementing. We are in the process of replacing one of our full-time specialists, maintenance specialists. We've had a long-term disability issue in the department, and we run on 14 full-time maintenance and rescue specialists for 24-hour, 7 days a week operations at 3 airports. So we have a relatively small team, and each person missing is a hardship to the rest of the team. So we're anxious to get that replacement person on staff. And we are reviewing a position that we have out at our Oakland Southwest Airport, who is identified as a maintenance laborer. It's really not the right title. It doesn't really reflect the performance and responsibility of that position. So we're going through that process with HR right now. And the biggest change of the budget will be an increase in our cost for U.S. Customs Service in our post-pandemic time period. Now we're extending that service. It had been basically cut in half during the pandemic because of the stall on international travel, and so we had reduced our hours to just morning hours, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we've had a lot of requests by our international travels to expand it again and return those afternoon hours. So July 18th, we were able to secure a second agent on site, and now our hours are extended from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So with that comes a very large chargeback from U.S. Customs. Because we're a user fee airport, we have to self-sustain, so we are going to have to increase our customs fees. But I think that they're still very much in line with what other airports, user fee airports, are charging. So those rates had not been adjusted for a very long time. So that's really the biggest adjustment that we will have. Ongoing initiatives, we're returning staffing levels in the admin office to pre-pandemic levels as well. We're getting ready to implement our new rent manager software system, which is going to help us improve our leaseback program, and it'll offer, for the first time, a payment option that our tenants will be able to pay their monthly hangar rental fees online. Can't come soon enough. It's been a focus.
We don't do that yet?
No.
Wow.
It's been a very long time coming.
Check off, like rentals and addresses.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's been a very, very long process, but we cross your fingers, we're almost there.
That's why IT went early.
one of our other initiatives is we're focusing on airspace obstructions at all 3 of our airports. By obstructions, primarily, we're talking about trees that are in the airspace, and a lot of those on the airport committee have heard a lot about airspace and obstructions and whatnot, and we're dealing with that at all 3 airports. I mentioned the rent manager is our IT project, and we have no contracts coming up to bid. We have relatively few contracts other than landscaping and snow plowing at smaller airports. And we're working with the purchasing department on the purchase of our new airport firefighting rescue vehicle. So that's really the biggest contract that we'll see in '23. That's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Long.
I just want to mention, since she was talking about the open house is Sunday. Were you going to mention it?
Yeah.
The airport one, it's good. And there's an air show. What is it, 10 to 4? What's the
10 to
time?
4
It's gonna
with
start at
air show
9.
Starting about 1.
Okay.
On to that, Charlie.
The
And then
show's open
free
from 9
free
to
parking because
It's
someone gave a
really cool.
contribution, right?
Yeah.
Take
Yep.
friends.
So free parking.
With women.
Yes. Yes.
with
Women
all
skydivers.
female
I wanted to, if
skydivers.
anyone's watching, so they know they can go up to the airport Sunday for free, and it's great time.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is. We were really honored by the
Busy.
contribution that we got from one of our airport employees that contributed $15,000 to the program so that there could be free parking for all the public.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Incredibly generous.
wow. It's a really cool event if you've never gone.
So the air show starts at 1:30.
Okay.
Want to be there by 1:30 if you want to see the air show.
Super cool. Anybody else? The Southwest Airport, I know we've been out there, and I know you redid the runway, right?
Yes.
Out there. And I also know there were trees that were problematic. Does this all relate to, how does that airport's future look? What are the plans for that airport? Because it's not very big, and it has a lot of those little GA planes, and, tell me a little bit about that. Are the planes, do we have as many GA planes as we used to, or,
I can talk maybe like big picture, and then Cheryl can jump into some of the granular details. One of the things that we're exploring in our mobility area is, I think people automatically jump to mobility and just vehicles, but there's actually air mobility, like if you think about drones, vertiports, and then there's also a third component, there's sea that's going on. So we are looking at what are the possibilities with that airport in terms of working with the FAA, and are there opportunities to get vertiport opportunities. We're looking at trying to attract companies who are in the R&D space, who are doing, making research and projects and headway in that area, and how that can also relate to transit, tying that into some of the other contracts, the federal contracts, defense that we're working with. And then we're looking at, are there other partnerships out there with the Hollygo RV and other groups where we can use all the different assets in Oakland County to attract businesses and work with those who are existing businesses in that space. But if you have any other.
Sure. Just to speak to how is the airport doing today, after the recap of the runway last summer, we've had some new tenants come back out to the airport, so we're very excited to see that. We were down to about 38 tenants, and we're up over 52 now, so that was good. We also signed a lease agreement with the Warbirds of Glory, so we have the new museum out there that I think will breathe some fresh life into the airport. We're in the midst of an environmental assessment funded by a state grant that will allow us to deal with some of the obstructions and potentially some land acquisition that will help us clear the obstacles. But we do have this 10-acre parcel on the east end of the airport that is really not being utilized. And so that's where we're partnering together with Ingrid's group to look at what the future might hold for non-aviation use out of that parcel, if that makes any sense. But we know we have some hoops to jump through, and we'll get a little bit more educated about it and what the FAA is going to allow us to do at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Moss.
And the Troy Airport.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems to be getting very built up around there.
That's where the trees
Hi.
are.
Trees, buildings, because I know because a lot of the planes fly over my house going there, but how's that coming back once again from the pandemic? Seems like there's more and more and more office construction all around it.
Yes, all of the airports were affected by the pandemic, definitely, and the activity levels are improving at all airports, including Troy. Yes.
Good.
Put the extra loud ones over your house.
Yeah. No, it's good to see the
Still living.
airports utilized.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Charles.
Should the board consider continuing your budget for the tree planting account?
Oh, for ours? Okay. That's actually been a huge success. Yeah, so with the George Kuhn drainage project, every single community, I think but one, chose to accept the funding for that project. We've had hundreds and hundreds of trees planted, so that's been wildly successful. So yes, that would be great to keep moving forward with programs like that.
I think Brett just put out a letter yesterday that told us how many plantings were
Yeah, he
part
just-
of the GWK.
He just published that report. Yeah, that was sent out, exactly.
Yeah, and in it, it said that the communities said they'd like us to do it again if we could, so.
I just wanted to add to that, since I know Brett's listening, is that one or more of the trees we planted in Royal Oak Township got disturbed.
Oh.
And so when it's laying on its side like that, they blame us for not caring about the park. So, and this is macro, is that what it's called? So I'd just like to put that on the radar. Macro, 2 words with a hyphen, park.
2 last names.
Oh, Mac Row Park,
I
gotcha.
understand.
Okay, yeah, we can work with
I'll
them.
check into it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like,
And Charlie, all
sounds like the voice of God right now in this room.
right, I'm going to give Charlie the last question unless anybody else.
Oh, wow.
Short one.
I got 2 of them, so you guys.
No, not too
Well,
many.
since Brett is on, and Ingrid and Sean, you're here, tell me, what's going on with the ADA Small Business Grant Program? You've had it out for a year,
Well,
so like, or
no,
it's been
no, we have not had
written
a.
for a year, so how can we help you expedite that?
Yeah, so just to clarify, there hasn't been a grant out. I know that there was an idea, or we've talked about it, but what we're doing is working with the executive team for going through the queue of art projects. So right now, there's been some workforce development ones. We're working through a few others. Whether or not we can, whether that qualifies or not, we're going to look into that because I agree. So the Commissioner Cavell, I don't remember whose idea was. It was the idea that can we offer grants to communities, to businesses to help them implement measures to allow accessibility. So for instance, if you're in a historic downtown or in an old building and you need to retrofit your entrance so that someone can come in with a wheelchair and get access, I think it's a great idea. I think it's just finding out whether it qualifies for ARP or how that works. So, but, and I mentioned this in an email, but what we have done though, as that sits in the queue essentially, is we have a team, Ron Campbell on our team, our architect, our historic architect. He has done a couple of presentations out there to communities on what you can do with your code compliance group, how you can make referrals, because a lot of local municipalities, the code inspectors or those teams can give advice. The second thing that we're also working on is as our Business Forward program gets built up, we're going to be in the process of getting consultants on board, tax advisors, lawyers. So can we have, there are specialists out there who can actually advise a business on accessibility and how do you retrofit, because I think a lot of people are not aware of the ADA compliance requirements and the laws. So it's just a matter of educating people, explaining what's going on. So that's one of the consultants that we want to get in that queue or in that pool of people. So the grant opportunity, that's something we just have to explore. Yeah.
So do you have a timeline on that, or?
I don't know. I just, because I know the executive team is going through the queue right now. They're going through a lot of other applications too right now, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. The last question I had is, if I read it right, your professional services budget is going up by $4 million?
The reason for that is there is a $3 million, what's the word I'm looking for? The project for the World Economic Forum. with MEDC. So if you remember the.
Don't say those words. That's the other part of what went on last night.
Oh, okay. So that partnership with the MEDC and the county and Automation Alley. So that money, those dollars were put in that line item there.
That makes sense.
But I thought, so then help me understand budget language, and I'm sorry, but in the categorical thing, it says contract services decreased primarily due to professional services, which includes the $3 million one-time appropriation for the advanced manufacturing hub with Auto Alley. Is that the same thing?
That's the same thing, yeah.
That's it.
Mhm. So that just was placed in that bucket to go,
Okay.
and then it'll come out, so.
So it
That's right.
will decrease. It has
Yes.
not.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
We
Appreciate it.
agreed to that $3 million.
Because Sean got a
3
deal with
months ago or
MEDC. Yeah.
something, made the big presentation.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
He made it work, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think that's it for your group. Really appreciate you coming in and all the, answering our questions. And you do sound like you have one of the most fun departments to work in.
We absolutely do.
Stuff,
I'll go toe-to-toe with any department and say that.
Thank you.
Okay, tell them that.
Oh, do you want my card?
Yeah.
You don't have my info?
No, every time I want to reach you, I'm always.
Yeah, that is true.
We're going to give the team 5 minutes to make the switch for the next group.
When you read contractual
to do this. You guys ready?
We're ready.
All right. So this is the last group of the day. It is the county clerk. And welcome. You've got a presentation to show us. Go through your stuff, and then we'll ask questions. And
I don't have a PowerPoint or anything. I don't.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, cool.
This is the presentation.
Whoa.
That's okay.
Here we are.
Thank you.
So good afternoon. Yes, I'm Lisa Brown, the Oakland County Clerk Register of Deeds. To my right is Joe Rozelle, Director of Elections. To my left is Craig Jones, Chief Deputy Register of Deeds. And Jennifer Howden is joining us virtually. I don't know how you can see her or hear her, but anyway, she is the Chief Deputy Clerk, so she's here virtually.
Sorry.
See, there she is. Thanks, Jen. I guess I could have said this before we start, but before we get into the budget, just a reminder, because we got some phone calls and things. I know y'all love the directories, but make sure you're not campaigning with them. There shouldn't be campaign stickers on them because it's something paid for but with taxpayer dollars, so you shouldn't be. So just a reminder, you can put,
We have our own stickers from the Board of Commissioners.
That's fine. That's, as long as it's not, but it doesn't say vote for or reelect or nothing like that. So just a friendly reminder of that. So just a little, what's been happening, where have we been at since the last time we did this a year ago? If you remember, a year ago, we were by appointment only. And in April, I believe it was April 25th, Jenny will correct me if I'm wrong, but the circuit court reopened, and knowing that date was coming, we then moved to a hybrid. So we are still taking appointments, but we also take walk-ins. So if you have an appointment, and if it's that time, you're going to be helped before the walk-in. When it comes to passports, that is appointment only. I think it's been so much better for us to operate that way. In the past, before we had appointments, we'd have to put out a press release and things on the door during election time, during canvass, during all that, when staff is all in on elections, like, okay, we're not going to be taking passports for the next 2 weeks or whatever. And it was just so, this is smoother to be able to just not take appointments during that time. So I think that's worked out really well. Yeah. And
you're not making people mad, and you're getting the work done.
No, and sorry.
And they're all able to get the appointments that they want, unlike what we've heard from the USPS, where they can't seem to get, an appointment there.
I know my post office, they're not doing passports. So, there's fewer and fewer places that offer it. And so, I mean, it's a wonderful service that we offer, but it does work really well for our staff. And I think for the customers, because if you have 20 people come in at the same time, they can't all be helped at the same time. So it's an efficiency. So, but otherwise, everything else is the hybrid, that people have the option to make an appointment still, or they can just walk in and we help them, as we did in the past. I wanted to thank you again for passing the resolution that opposed what many of us call the Zillow bills. That would have such a negative impact, not just that package, not just on our budget, but the treasurer's budget and equalization. There's another bill that's still out there, not the Zillow bills, but that would kind of do the same thing regarding court records and allowing everybody to have access to every court record for free without even having an account to log into or anything. And, the concern with both of those packages or bills or whatever is data mining, and that these third parties are just downloading all of our records, and they're making a profit off of them, but they could also be changing things, and fraud could happen there. We are the official keeper of the records. This is where the record should be. It shouldn't be a third party having all of our documents. So the bill regarding court records, I believe, passed the House. It has not moved in the Senate, and I'm hoping that's how it stays. I do know that the State Court Administrative Office was working with the bill sponsor to try and get something that everybody would be on board with, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen, because it would have a negative impact on our budget. But I'm keeping an eye on it, so. Things that are actually in the budget here, if you notice, we have an increase to reimburse general, that's really, if you're looking at our budget, if you're just looking at like the first page, that's all of my departments combined versus going into each individual. It's for elections, and from our combined AV counting board, absentee voter counting board. If you remember, you supported our resolution for a fee schedule, which is really, it is what the line item is. It's a reimbursement. So it's for the communities that we tabulate for. You know, many of the fees are proportionate. Some are shared equally. It just depends on what the fee is. But like paying the workers, right? So for this August primary, we hired a little over 200 people. So that's being paid for by the municipalities that we counted for, and based on a proportionate basis of how many ballots we tabulated for them. So Joe and staff have to do the math on that to figure out how much everybody owes, but so, not doing that. So reimburse general, but also, so again, just to explain, then that's kind of offset on another line item by fees per diem under contractual services. That's just one example. So that's the workers that we're paying for. But if we have to rent space that we're using to tabulate the ballots for, we have to put an ad in the paper, the meals, like all these different things that are those costs that the clerks would be paying for if they were doing it themselves. You know, we're not making a profit on this by any means. There's still things that there's still costs that we're eating. My staff is working overtime Monday, you know, the night before the election. That was not a night that they were normally working overtime, but it's to be there to accept all the ballots from the municipalities. So, you know, there are costs that are increased to us that we're not being reimbursed for. Again, when we proposed this to the local clerks who we were tabulating for at the time, we're like, would that be and I mean, all of them said, my board will approve it, no problem. Like nobody blinked an eye. And I mean, we increased how many communities we tabulated for. So, but I just wanted to explain like why, you know, you'll see an increase in those. I picked out fees per diem because that's the biggest one, but while you're seeing increases in those line items. Another one also in the elections budget is nominating filing forfeit is the name of the line item. The legislature changed the law in regards to filing fees. You pay $100 to run for office. If you won, you used to get a check back from us. And that's not the case anymore. So the legislature changed that and made it all non-refundable, which again, that's savings for my team of not having to figure out, and they'd have people call and say, oh, my check expired, can you issue me a new one? And then we're in another budget, and it was always a issue. The one, I'd say, imperfection at best with the legislation was they said that that revenue is earmarked for election equipment, but they did not require a restricted fund for it. So, I mean, I've talked to Kyle to say we've got to keep track of this every year so that when we need money for, now, is this going to pay for all of our election equipment? Not even close, okay? This is a drop in the bucket to what we have spent and need to spend for our equipment. But this is how the legislature wanted it. It was the way to make them feel better. That I think that the legislature was thinking, here we're giving you this money, clerks, so don't come to us in another 10 years for money for new voting equipment. But again, no municipality will this cover it. But anyways, so that's it. So that, even though it goes into the general fund, because there's not a restricted fund because they didn't require that, it's earmarked. So you will see an increase in that amount because we're not giving it back anymore. Another thing that's kind of hanging out there is the remonumentation fee. So that is set to be reduced next year, 23 or 25. I want to say 23. For every document that is recorded in the Register of Deeds office, $4, right, goes to Remon. If you remember, I come to you every year with a grant for remonumentation. So we collect money, some of that goes to the state, we get it back. That's the thing with the coroners, with our surveyors and all that kind of stuff. So it's supposed to go from $4 to $2. I know that Register of Deeds have an interest in making it stay at $4. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So that's that. As far as asks, I think with my questionnaire, I only put in one thing, which was more staff. We're going to need more staff in the legal division. Legislature, once again, with the State Court Administrative Office, so we're having auto set-asides. So do I get on my soapbox? No? Okay, I won't. Just the fact that people won't even know that this is happening with their records, I find a little troubling. But I would hate for somebody to apply for a job and say, yes, I have a criminal record, but it's been set aside and they don't know that because there's no way to notify. But anyway, that's my opinion. We are likely to have 1 million records that we need to take out of our records, take off, so that they're not public. In October, we're going to have an idea as to what that looks like. In April is when they're saying it will go live. So what we keep asking is, are we getting 1 million records at once? Are we getting them in bunches? Like, how's this going to work for us? What is it going to look like? And so in October, we'll have an idea. But we do, I think they told us, or Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, like somehow we know it's going to be like 1 million records for us. So we're going to need more staff to do that. It's a new task that we've never had before, and it's going to be ongoing. So we have set-asides currently, but this is going to be this is going back to the beginning of time, basically. So it'll be a lot of work for us. So we'll need some extra staff for that. And, looking at the information, we got all this information, look at what the strategic plan is, and look at this, and see how your asks play into this. So, I see that one of the county goals is public safety. Strategic plan includes the well-being of Oakland County residents. And I know one of your buckets for ARPA is infrastructure. So I'm going to beat a drum that I have been beating since I got here and looked up. And that is fire suppression. It's a concern that we don't have that in the courthouse. And concern, obviously, is an understatement. It's scary. It's really scary that we don't have that. We have, obviously, wonderful people that work here. We have very important documents here, and to not have any fire suppression, it's just, thank you. So that. Now.
Do you mean
we have no sprinklers.
Everywhere that you have offices, or,
do you have them? Joe's in the West Wing, Elections is in the West Wing, and that's newer, so they have it. But,
okay.
But us, no.
Okay.
That's not news. She said it last year.
Yeah,
I've been saying
yeah.
it. Clerk,
I forgot
Register,
about it when the facilities people came through yesterday, so.
we have nothing. So, I know that we're grandfathered in. That's why it's not there. I don't think that's a good excuse, though, especially when we have resources that perhaps we didn't have before, like ARPA. So I know when you talk infrastructure, you're looking countywide, but I beg you to look where we're sitting, right? And take care of us and our records and everything else. So, and
the commissioner has a question.
Oh,
Actually not. Madam Chair, you probably told us this last year, and I probably missed it. This is I find it shocking. May I suggest that this committee, as we're doing the budget, I understand the facilities were yesterday. Let's ask them about this. I'd like to follow up on this because, we're talking about the records here, and they're probably irreplaceable. I'd like to immediately ask facilities what's the deal here and what is their plan to remediate the situation and do it as quick as possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's,
Commissioner
Like I said-
McGilvery has something he wants to say.
Along
Yeah.
those same lines, this request has been made to the county executive?
yeah, I've been saying this for a long time.
Really? Okay.
So, and let me just say, at one point, and maybe you remember how many years ago, but there was the Domino Plan 4 or 5 years ago.
Probably.
Which there was another department, county department, that currently is not within this building, that was going to be moving into this building. My understanding is because somebody else was moving in, it lifted, I think, the grandfather clause. And so it would have, then fire suppression and all these other things, fixing the HVAC, giving us new lighting, because our lighting is actually a fire hazard, which is more than ironic. You know, the ballasts that we have, they're really old. They don't make them like that anymore. We should have LED lights. We don't. And we've actually had a fire from our lights in the Register of Deeds office. Like if you move the panel, you can see it's all black, and a spark did fall like down onto the desk and burn them in a piece of paper. That was a few years ago. So anyway, the Domino Plan was going to
Fix all that.
fix all that, and then, you know, now it sits on a shelf somewhere. So,
Well, facilities does have, they are looking at the whole space utilization on the whole campus to do exactly that, move people around,
Yeah.
consolidate the offices and all
Yeah.
of that. So, and they say their plan for that should be, you know, done in the next few months. But
and I walked through with folks from facilities and Homeland Security and the whole thing, you know, seeing where what are they called? The things,
fire
No.
extinguishers, oh, the
No.
defibrillators.
those, yeah, where those are and everything else. And I mean, I pointed it out, even, you know, they were, and I love their attention to detail, which is absolutely needed. Some of the maps that are on the walls, like for the public to say if there's like an emergency exit, like, they're not perfect. I'll just leave it at that. So, you know, they were noticing everything and taking note of everything. But I know it would be a lot of work, but I don't know. I'm sure there's so many different options out there, but just having a fire extinguisher under a counter is not comforting, right? So,
Yeah.
so I asked for that, and before yesterday morning, I would have stopped there and said any questions, but I don't know if you know what happened yesterday morning. The courthouse was without power. And so a few issues with that. One, oddly, the fire alarm was going off. So
This must have been early yesterday?
it was, I mean, staff was here, 8 o'clock, so, I mean, we had customers, and it was, you know, looking around like, okay, is there a fire? What's going on? So the fire alarm or smoke alarms are connected to the power going out, which you have an alarm at home, it beeps, whatever. But a little confusing, and then extra scary when you know you don't have fire suppression, like, how serious do I need to take this? There were no emergency lights in the Register of Deeds. A reminder that now our phones are VoIP, and so phones don't work when the power goes out, right? Let's see, there was something else. Am I forgetting? I gotta put my glasses on. No phones, the alarms went off. Yeah, and we can't work. So having a backup generator that's more than just emergency lights would be ideal. I know that Tom Hardesty had recently sent out, it's time to, update the B Corps. And I know that there are other buildings on campus that do have generators. I think what we do here is pretty important. And I mean, so many things are connected to electricity. All these people, you guys are parked in there. That gate is connected to electricity, right? You want to leave? I mean, good luck. You can't drive through anywhere because we've got the fence all around. So we need to have, and obviously this isn't just for me. You think about the courts, and a lot of our judges, their hearings are via Zoom. Well, you need electricity for that. And even if we have people working remotely, they're logging into their computers here. So it's not like, oh, well, we can send people home and they can do work from home, or at least the people who are working remotely can still do work. No, because they're using GoToMyPC to connect here. So, we're shut down when that happens. And so I think having a generator would be a wise investment. Yeah, in elections, it does affect that a little bit too, if we don't have power, and that's been
We've actually made special arrangements to have the room rewired and a temporary generator brought in before every election, just so we can continue to put results out if we were to lose power. But that would become obviously unnecessary if the whole building was on a generator. But we've had to try to protect the integrity of things, work around not having one.
I guess the final thing I'd like to say is in regards to the election, because all these people were saying, oh, you got results up so fast, you get results up so fast, and then this whole thing with modems, and our neighbors aren't modeming, and all of that. And if you remember, in 2017, well, no, I picked before that.
17 is when it was brought
But when we picked. All right, well, we started with new equipment, so it was a very long RFP process. There were 3 voting equipment vendors, and each county clerk picks. That's in the law. It requires input from the local clerks, but and so our vendor, Hart, went through federal certification for 4G modems. The other vendors did not do that. That's an expense to go through that process, but ours did that. And so we have the capability to continue to have results from precincts modemed into us on election night. That will be coming to an end for us at some point, and Joe and I talk about that every week and come up with, I'm like, how about this? How about this? I know I'd probably drive him crazy, but we plan ahead. We like to be prepared, and we want to know what we're going to be dealing with, and have a solution that ensures the security of the results. But we also want to continue to be a leader with having results out there. So and one of the things that will keep us there is, in my opinion, the combined AV County Board. Because this past August, we tabulated for 19 of our communities. By 8:05, those AV results were out to the public. And I can tell you from my past experience, like when I ran for state rep, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for the AV results, and that was actually what determined my race. I had 2 opponents in 2008 and 2010 who both declared victory before the AV votes had been posted. And then, obviously, I won, they didn't. So anyway, I know. So, and I know election night is so stressful, especially when your name's on the ballot. But other people care too. Voters want to know. So I do want to, again, applaud Joe and my entire team, and thank all the 200+ people who worked for us on election day. They did a great job. They were done well before 8 p.m., and it's because we have a great plan, and we know to hire the right amount of people. I mean, we do math, and figuring out, okay, we're going to have this many ballots, we need this many people to be able to tabulate this many ballots to be done by 8 p.m. So I'm going to stop talking and let you ask questions now.
Okay. I'll start with Commissioner McGilvery.
I've got a few questions here. Question regarding the mobile clerk services. Mm-hmm. Do you still do that?
I haven't since COVID. I do want to add the caveat. I did during COVID open the satellite office in Troy. So that has been another way that people can access our services. That's by appointment. When I talk about appointment, that's also by appointment only. But I'm getting there. We're getting there. We will be doing it again.
Okay. With the hybrid work plan in place where you only have to work 1 day a week.
Wait, who's working 1 day a week?
The county came up with a hybrid plan that all employees.
Hell yeah.
Nobody told me. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Does your staff work all 5 days a week?
Absolutely. Plus, yes.
Okay, all of your employees, or part of them?
I mean, I'm trying to think, if we have any PTNEs?
Some are in a hybrid, some days remote, some days in the office.
Right, do you mean on-site? I mean, we do have
Yeah.
some who,
On-site, I'm talking.
but it's not one day a week.
The-
Oh, no, I do have a couple employees. Let me think.
Minimums.
I got to think. Okay, so I do have a couple of employees. I'm thinking, Jenny's probably like raising her hand. Yeah, I do have a couple employees who the majority of the time work remotely and are here one day, 1 or 2 days on site. But the overwhelming majority of my staff, we're here 5 days a week.
Okay. The AB counting, that's going well?
Yes.
And you had said 19 cities you're?
We did, this past for August, we contracted with 19 of our cities and townships.
Okay.
60,000.
Almost 60,000 ballots. It's over a third of the county. It's not all small municipalities. It's not all large municipalities. It's everything from quite large to, to smaller municipalities.
And during
North, south,
COVID, we had a
everything.
little bit of a problem with death certificates. Is that all corrected now?
Are you talking about during COVID, like at the height of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
When we weren't getting them
problem.
out, and you had to do something with mail and.
Mail and
Yep, no
all?
problem, yep. No, yeah, you guys put $50,000 in to cover for expedited shipping so that they could be sent out earlier. Yeah, I mean, that ended last fall, that $50,000, and I don't think it was, I'm trying to think, I don't think it was all used, but no, there's no
There is no
issues.
delay.
No, no. There is legislation, not that it affects our side, but it does for funeral homes, and that was like the issue. There is a 2-bill package that would allow somebody besides the attending physician to sign off on a death record, because that has been a holdup for people to be able to get death records, that they're waiting for the doctor to sign it. Funeral home can't do anything until, so that's moving along. But yeah, no, everything's hunky-dory with us.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Charles had her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I want to check with you, Madam Clerk, about free and fair elections.
Okay?
Is there funding to ensure that here in Oakland County we can expect free and fair elections?
Oh, I mean, I think so. Ooh, I don't want to call out anybody. When I went to go vote, I'm going to just tell the story because it happened. When I went to go vote in my precinct, I walked in and the guy working there didn't know who I was, which is fine, I don't care. And he said, okay, you're going to have to fill out this application and you need a photo ID to vote. And I paused, like giving him a second to say something more, and he didn't. And I said, unless somebody signs the affidavit on the back. And he went, yeah, I've been complaining about it ever since. Not the correct instruction to give somebody, and it frustrates me that is what the message that somebody would give, right? You do not, at this point in time, in the state of Michigan, you do not have to have a photo ID to vote. If you do not have one in your possession, you can sign the affidavit on the back of the application to vote. So, because a state ID, there is a fee to it, One of the first things I did when I got here was my program to reduce or waive the fee for a vital record, mainly birth certificates, for somebody facing extreme hardship and getting services from an accredited social service agency, because it costs money to get a birth certificate, right? But you need the birth certificate to get the state ID. So, it makes it not free, in my opinion, then to be able to vote. But I wanted to do my part, and I appreciate the board's support in that. Again, Michigan is different than 46 other states in how our elections are run. We are decentralized. 46 states, it's all run at the county level. That's not how it's done here. And, there are advantages and disadvantages to that. To me, it adds another layer of checks and balances, right? So, but it also creates a lack of uniformity. The law states that the county clerk trains election day workers for municipalities that have a population of 10,000 or less. A community that's larger than that can ask us to do the training for them. And we'll take, like, if somebody can't make their training, they can, do ours. But otherwise, the bigger municipalities train their own workers. There are over 1,500 city and township clerks in the state of Michigan. Now, I have colleagues from other counties that they train all the workers in their county because other municipalities are small, some of the northern counties or whatever. But, we see a variety, and we can tell during the canvas often, like, okay, if this person had gone to our training, this wouldn't be like this kind of a thing. So, but our elections, I'm going on a tangent, I apologize. Are they free and fair? Yes. And I encourage everyone, and I know Commissioner Markham has come to the canvas before. The canvas is open to the public. Anyone from the public can come watch. Our public accuracy test, anyone can come watch. We've finally had people come and watch, and they've learned so much and walk away going, oh my gosh, yeah, it's all done right. And it's great to hear that and for them to have that reassurance. Working an election, there's just so many things. There are so many ways that someone who has any doubts about our democratic process can observe or participate and learn. And, in addition to the canvas, which is done by 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans that you all choose, we do audits after that. So and if you look at the paper, if you Google, I don't know, I wouldn't even know what the right terms, but election crime or something like that. I just saw there was somebody in Sterling Heights who was charged with forging, that's what we have in Michigan, is so many checks and balances that's going to be caught, right? It's going to get caught, whether it's in the canvas or before the canvas or some other time, things get caught, whether it's at the local clerk's office, at the county clerk's office. If somebody wants to try and commit an election crime or commit election fraud, they're going to get caught. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, in the now near 16 years I've been in this role, I've never seen the volume turned at the level that it is now. But despite the daily emails, phone calls, threats to bodily harm, threats to going to jail, I really do applaud my staff's ability to be undeterred in making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do and that we're carrying out, the people's work to make democracy work. It's hard. We see things that in 16 years I've never saw. I've been called things in 16 years I've never been called, and and as has the clerk. But we're going to do the right thing, and that's what this whole process is built on, and we take great pride in that.
Thank you for the floor, and just let it be known that we really appreciate those election workers coast to coast, sea to sea. So we need them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Charles. Commissioner Cavell?
Hey, I was looking at special revenue funds, concealed pistol licensing.
Mm-hmm.
You made almost double the revenue than you were budgeted for? What? Is that normal? Is that, what's going on out there?
Yeah, people like to apply for those.
Okay.
It's a popular menu item.
Okay.
Yeah.
When people go to get their pistol license, is there like a box of gun locks or something for people that fill them out?
No, there was a time where you guys did that. You've passed out locks before, and we had some at our office, but I do believe that anyone who's purchasing a new gun, that a lock comes with it.
Yeah.
So we don't have that. It is something we've talked about, but again,
They said the veterans had it.
Oh, Well, I
But
think,
then,
because after you go to you for a license, you gotta go over to the sheriff's department, and I remember seeing locks.
You get fingerprinted,
Yeah,
yeah.
fingerprinted
They-
and stuff over there.
they actually, so I'm working with some commissioners on a gun buyback program and a trigger lock giveaway. And the sheriff actually ran out during COVID, but Moms Demand Action had a hookup that got us 5,000 more locks, but the
Okay.
sheriff had been out for a year and a half, just FYI.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, it's something that we've talked about, because, yes, we have a healthy fund there. And, yeah, it's a consideration as to whether, but again, like, knowing that if a lock comes with one, you know, I don't know that it's something that, and we don't know how many.
Is that normal, the differential though, right? It's more than double what you're budgeted for. Is that, last year was $400,000, or year before last was 400, and then it was 890, and now it's probably gonna go back down to 400, or it's just always like 800?
Well, so know that, so there's two different kind of, I guess, line items in a sense that go into the revenue. It's first time and then renewals. And we get a different amount and we have to split that with the state. Renewals are now online and it's like through the Michigan State Police that people do it, but we get a part of that. It gets a little wonky when somebody puts the wrong county, but anyway, and it's like getting all the money to the right place. But I lost my train of thought. So your CPL is usually good for 5 years. So it could also be cyclical, like if there was something that happened, oftentimes after elections, even year elections, I have seen, like, and especially after in the new year, like a lot of people take the class for Christmas, or they get a firearm for Christmas or something. The line is always so long right then. So there's certain times that like we have spikes. But so if something happened then that year, we're gonna have more, 5 years later, it's gonna be an increase kind of a thing for renewals and that sort of thing too, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa, this is Jennifer. With our CPL budget, late in 2007, we saw a dramatic increase in the purchase of concealed pistol licenses. So those people that purchased them, every 4 to 5 years, depending on their date of birth and when they applied, is when that renews. So every, it is cyclical, very much so. So in beginning at the end of 2007 is where we really saw the uptick.
Cool.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
any
sometimes
other
I like
commissioners?
People were scared of Barack
Sometimes I
Obama.
know.
So what I heard from you is, you've still got issues with your workplace safety that have not been addressed for a number of years. And so I'm going to ask, as Commissioner Moss suggested, that this be dealt with right away. I'll talk to staff about, getting on your page for that.
Thank you.
Because I think we all agree, we don't want to lose important records just because we don't have any sprinklers.
Yeah.
I have one other question. Do you have anything to do with expungements? Has Oakland County done an expungement fair, or are we going to?
Jenny, you want to talk about it? What's the department that they've been doing it?
Yeah, so the state has a group that actually will provide legal services for people they used to be called expungements, now they're called set-aside convictions.
Okay.
And Oakland County has a group that assists people with filing for the set-aside process. The prosecutor, I believe, also had a clinic back a few months ago, and I only know that because some information was incorrect, and it came that it came from the prosecutor. It had some Saturday clinic or something. So, but honestly, out of every legal process there is in a courthouse, in a circuit courthouse, setting aside a conviction is probably one of the most I don't want to say quick, but easiest in terms of legalities and fines or fees or anything that accompanies it. So we do have instructions on our website. We do assist customers. There is the Michigan Legal Help website also that is kind of like a TurboTax for court filings that will also provide that type of assistance when someone's attempting to clear their record.
So know that there are, depending upon what is on the record, felony, it's got to be, only certain kinds of felonies can be set aside. There's a waiting time period for that, right? 8 years and then 3 years for misdemeanor. But again, so starting next April, it's going to be automatic for people that those things are going to be automatic. I mean, not
So
all
what
at once,
is the
'cause we'll have to
department
process that.
here? Is it Jenny? You mentioned a department at the county that is dealing with that, or
No,
besides the
I wanna say
prosecutor?
It wasn't economic development. What was it?
Michigan Works.
Oh, it's
Michigan Works.
Michigan Works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just, I think Oakland County has their own Michigan Works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some other areas in the state cover multiple jurisdictions, but we're so large, and like Wayne County has their own, Oakland County has their own. It's Michigan Works, and I believe Steve Rideout, was it Steve Rideout? He used to work for Corporation Counsel.
Yeah.
Runs that, yes.
Okay. Okay. That's something I don't think has been publicized all that well, at least in Oakland County. I mean, I've seen an expungement fair big thing going on in Livingston County, Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County. I haven't seen us doing the same sort of
We
highly
have.
publicized deal.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
We've
Oh,
had.
have we? Okay.
We've had them, because I mean, then the people come in
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, Michigan Works has definitely been having like ongoing clinics and
Okay.
stuff like that. They're
Okay.
helping, they're assisting people.
Facebook pages.
Okay. I'm happy to be informed. Thank you.
Maybe it's not reaching your corner. of
It
the
must
county
not
there,
be.
yeah. But they're definitely, yeah.
Okay,
They've
good.
definitely been doing things, so.
Good. All right, so I think I heard you loud and clear about your facility. And I guess I don't have any other questions. If everybody's done
Bathroom.
with their questions, I think we're done with you guys for today. Thanks for coming
Okay.
in.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing all the work to get prepared. Thanks for all you do to serve the public, because you're probably the most forward-facing department of the entire county. We're pretty forward-facing too, but you encounter so many people every day, so.
Yeah.
Opposed to backward facing?
Yeah.
No, I use that word all the time because there are so many departments at the county that aren't, right? They don't deal with the public. They work for the county,
Right.
right? Like IT supports us or HR supports us, but they're not working with the public.
I think you're familiar with it as customer facing.
Oh, I say
Right.
forward facing.
Yeah.
Well, keep up the good work.
Backward facing when they're
The
mean,
clerk
Right.
line, the clerk
Okay.
line, URL, I use probably
And
more
then
than
we'll
I use the
adjourn.
DOC URL, so I know it by heart.
Okay, I officially have to say I'm opening public comment. If there's anybody who cares to speak,
Yeah, it takes.
now's your time.
Give it a minute.
I'm closing public comment. And I will, if there's no other business to come before this group, I will adjourn the meeting at 3:35. And Chuck, it'll be like 7:30 when you get there.
Great job, everyone.
It'll still be copy.